near that massive cooker, I would imagine. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you. I am keeping a safe distance away from it though, Dan. I don't really want to get in the way, not only because I don't want to burn myself, but also because it's a well-oiled machine here in St Albans. You can see Lizzie there's just taking out one of the meals. She's just going to stab it with a temperature probe. It needs to be 83 degrees. That's an all-day breakfast, which is one of the most popular things that the folks who take advantage of this service here enjoy. You can also see that they get an afternoon tea as well. They'll pay around £4.55, I think it is, for a meal and for a pudding, and then afternoon tea goes on top of that, so different sandwiches and cakes, stuff like that. The other thing that's very interesting about where we are at the moment in St Albans is there is also a community cafe here, and I think we've got a good-looking full breakfast about to be taken by Gemma off to one of the tables there. Somebody's going to look forward to tucking into that later on. The community cafe offers a different aspect, obviously, because one of the things about Meals on Wheels, about places like this, is it's not just about the food, it's not just about nutrition, it's also about that social contact, tackling isolation.
Do you always manage to finish what we deliver to you?
Yeah.
Janet's receiving a check-up this morning from Annabelle Martin, a nutritionist from the Hertfordshire Independent Living Service.
OK, and that's slightly more than you were last time, so that's absolutely fantastic.
She's malnourished, but today there's good news. She's putting on weight. Malnourishment is defined as when the body doesn't get the nutrients it needs to function properly. A parliamentary report published today says it affects 1.3 million elderly people, but it's an estimate. The data comes from 2011, so it's calling for updated information. Those who provide Meals on Wheels suspect it's a much bigger problem.
Well, we're dealing with malnutrition on a daily basis. We've done our own research screening clients when they first come to our Meals on Wheels service, and we've discovered that 44% of them are malnourished to some extent. Now, it seems crazy to me that hunger amongst the elderly is something which is still prevalent in this country.
Reports, whether from parliamentary groups or...
And the best guess for the cost of the problem is almost £12 billion and rising.
Partly about ageing population, maybe partly through poverty, may more so because of isolation, but none of that is a reason for the government not thinking more imaginatively how it might spend a very small part of the pensioner budget in a way which really meets people in dire need.
Turn it up a bit.
The report makes several recommendations. They include taking winter fuel payments from the wealthiest pensioners to help fund community support. More Meals on Wheels, not only to provide food, but also tackle isolation and loneliness. And an increased role from supermarkets to offer slow shopping lanes and lunch clubs for the in-store cafe.
Hello, Ruth. Yep.
Ruth has just turned 91.
Hi, Ruth.
And still cooks for herself in the evening, but has a daily lunch delivery.
Lemon chicken today.
Oh, that looks nice.
On rice, all right.
Oh, that looks lovely.
She's well nourished and enjoys the social contact.
I can't grumble because they never miss. They always come every mortal day, regardless of the climate and the weather.
The report recognises that government and local authority budgets are under pressure. But social services directors say their work needs proper funding.
But the money talked about in the report, in my view, would be significantly insignificant when we talk about the amount of money that's required to truly put social care on a sustainable footing.
National governments across the UK say they're taking steps to tackle malnutrition. And in England, for example, the Care Act makes sure that vulnerable people's needs are met by their local authorities. But today's report is a challenge to us all to do something about it.
So let's talk to Sarah Wren, who you saw in the report, and also to Dr. Simon Gabe from BAPEN, which is an organisation dealing with clinical nutrition. Good to see both of you this morning. Thanks for joining us. Sarah, you're concerned, I know, about some of the mixed messages that are going out about healthy eating.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, obesity is a problem throughout our nation, but unfortunately, the only messages that we hear are about that. And actually, for someone who is older, someone who is losing weight and undernourished, low-fat food, low-sugar food is absolutely the wrong thing to be having. So what we really feel that is needed is multiple messages, so that someone who needs to put on weight can learn what is good nutrition for them.
And Dr. Gabe, you're a gastroenterologist, so you see, if you like, people when they're at the most poorly, I suppose. Yeah. What's going wrong?
Well, there are lots of reasons. Often there's mainly in England we're dealing with clinical nutrition and we're dealing with medical problems that result in nutrition, but the nutritional issues have got to be dealt with as well as the medical problem. I often think about having sort of nutrition vision. If you go round a hospital, you will see that 30% of patients, 1 in 3 patients, are malnourished or at risk of malnutrition. They've lost a lot of weight. And all of those patients have got complications that then develop. The cost is enormous as a result of that.
And you believe that people shouldn't be losing weight as they get older, because a lot of people think that's quite normal.
I know the perception is that as we age, it's normal to get thin, but we've got to change that perception, because it's truly not. It's not necessary. That doesn't necessarily happen.
Okay. Thanks very much indeed to both of you. We'll talk about this issue so much more later on. We've had responses from most of the national governments. They say that they do have policies in place to try to tackle this issue, as we said in the report. And also, let's just talk about here. This is the multi-nutrition universal screening tool, and this sort of thing that you saw being used in our report there, just a way of measuring patients to see how they're coping, to see what sort of situation they're in. Making this universal across the board is another way to understand exactly what's going on in the community. Back to you.
John, thank you very much for that. Really interesting stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. You're watching Breakfast.